and then you can drop all the defenses and trust life, that even the things you felt like your nervous system felt like she wouldn't make it, he wouldn't make it, it's not true. It just, by going through this process, you realize, oh, I'm still alive, I'm still here, I'm still standing. Hello, this is Esther Ciurana from Awakening with the Stars, and today I will talk about the full moon we had on December 8th, 2022. I will cover 4 points, and the first one is that it was at 16 degrees of Gemini, so in the decan of Scorpio, and it's a moon with a Taurus purpose, and it's really getting us in touch with the inner child wounds and the fear programming we have received, the disempowerment, with the purpose of feeling safe from the inside out instead of depending on external sources of safety. And it's like ingenuity is dying for true divine innocence to emerge. And it's a moment where it's key to thrive in the not knowing while the inner child is transforming. And so the idea is that to become a butterfly, you can have guides, you can follow your guidance, but you are the one who have to walk the path, and no one can do it for you. And so in here, it doesn't make sense to blame, because at this point, if others are not doing it for you, it's because this is working for your highest good. It is for you to build the resilience that will make your wings strong enough to fly. Because this moon is touching very sensitive spots, so it's very easy to go to reaction mode. And it is teaching us to become more resilient in those places that were so disempowered before. And so there is a very important step, which is self-love. And then there is a next step, which is to build this resilience. And building resilience doesn't mean to build walls around your heart, but the opposite, to be able to let these walls fall and to instead trust so much our inner core that we just know that there's nothing that can destroy us, and we can open our wings and fly with that certainty, because we live that process of dropping the fantasy, because we are in the cycle of new moon Sagittarius. So, and this one, it was in the first degree, so there was blindness. And in the full moon, it's coming to our consciousness what we were so blind about. And now it's up to us. We can either react and keep blaming and recreating more of the same, or we can take the reins of our life and fly, because we already have the resilience thanks to this ingenuity dying first. And so the second point is that the ruler of this moon is Mercury, and we have it at 1 degree of Capricorn, conjunct Venus and square Jupiter. And this Mercury is energetically is at a point where it's a bit raw, because Capricorn has a way to think without adornments, very sober, very moderate. And the challenge here is not to get into depression, because remember, we were in the spike of hope with Sagittarius. So the tricky part here with Mercury already in Capricorn is not to go into the other extreme and lose all hope. But the purpose here is to recover the will to live. And it seems paradoxical, but with these themes, we always have the coming in contact with the fear of not making it, And these parts of us that are dying, comes the realization that what's dying is not you. It's what's false, what was covering you, the costume, and you are coming in touch with this 0 point where you can make the choice again to live from another place that is not based on a fantasy or illusion, but on true joy that is capable of thriving in the unknown, in not knowing, in not having any certainty, and in trusting that the wings will resist anything. And so the third point here is that the main aspect of this moon is that it's in exact conjunction with Mars, retrograding still in Gemini. I already talked a little bit about this Mars. To me, it has to do with recovering our innocence and coming in touch with this Orion light, because Mars is retrograding and doing the whole Orion constellation. And this is our gateway to activate our full power, because it is touching these points where we felt most disempowered. And so it's a moment of resilience, because it's touching the inner kid, it's touching our sensitivity where we were wounded before, but keeping this trust that everything that we are seeing where we felt blinded before, now we are capable of empowering ourselves through it and becoming stronger thanks to it. But it's not a stronger where we build these walls and because we have these protections, now anything can hurt us, but it's the opposite, because all the walls fell. You reach a point where, okay, I thought this would kill me, but it didn't. So I don't have to fear it anymore. And then you can drop all the defenses and trust life, that even the things you felt like, your nervous system felt like she wouldn't make it, he wouldn't make it, it's not true. It just, by going through this process, you realize, oh, I'm still alive. I'm still here, I'm still standing. So this is how this process continues unfolding through these realizations that are felt very deep inside, because this is something that it can be difficult to express in words. You have to feel it. And this moment is for this, to reach these points very deep inside where that felt like the most sensitive, the most vulnerable, and realizing that they are your biggest strengths and there is power in that. So embrace it and come into contact with Gemini in the highest vibration, which is this curiosity, like, let's see what happens. And then, okay, maybe I burned my fingers or something, but I learned something new that I didn't know before. And being able to celebrate that even when it hurts badly, and knowing that the grief will pass and you will become the new you, which is the whole purpose of this. You'll keep getting more and more resilient, and you'll be able to show your vulnerability without fearing again what anyone thinks or does or says, because it will come from this place of radical self-love, radical self-acceptance, radical sovereignty. But first it takes to go into these places that felt more dependent, because we all were dependent as kids. And it is not about judging ourselves. We all have points where we feel more vulnerable or more dependent. And it's okay. It's about accepting them and being able to embrace this vulnerability and keep growing in those areas. Because it's when we believe we already know it all that we cannot keep growing. So to this process of dying, we come in contact again with this inner kid that still has a lot to learn. And we can either be depressed about it, or we can celebrate it and make it a fun game to keep playing, to keep growing. And at the end, this is what Socrates meant with the I just know that I don't know anything. And the fourth point is a little bit about my experience, because I like to approach the new moon more from the intuitive perspective, and the full moon more from the experiential astrology. So, and all I have talking about is more from experience, because I've been writing my book and getting in touch with those more sensitive places and having some vulnerable conversations. Gemini and Mercury also has to do with communication, and it is not easy, but it is rewarding to have these realizations, even when they can be quite painful at first. And so I really encourage you to not necessarily have conversations, or only if you really feel like, but to be in touch with these places of you and build a relationship, so you don't continue disintegrating and disconnecting from these parts of yourself by pushing them away because you don't want to feel vulnerable, or you don't want to feel weak, which is the opposite. And this reminds me of this famous quote from Theodore Roosevelt that says that it is not the critic who counts, the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. And that's what life is about, right? About taking these risks. Who doesn't risk doesn't get to experience the full potential of life. So we have again life and death coming together here and creating always new life. I also had some beautiful manifestations, and this is another thing I realized, like sometimes these like pains come from the things we really wanted, and we were kind of focused with the blinders of Sagittarius, and these things don't necessarily manifest, and you end up realizing that it's always for the highest good, right? Because sometimes what you want is not the best for you, and at the same time you receive things that you didn't expect, that they feel even more nurturing than the things that you thought you wanted. So it's also this process of realizing about the miracles, and this is a training. I feel like we are training our eyes to see the miracles because they are everywhere, and in the end you end up realizing I am the miracle. And this is why I'm able to perceive them outside, because I realize that I've been pursuing it. I've been pursuing miracles, and I was always the one creating them. Being able to see them here and there, and then through this focus, you keep expanding and expanding and expanding. That's how we create. So I encourage you also to train your capacity to feel and see and appreciate the miracles in your life. And a question here is, where did you cut yourself from receiving abundance or love by reducing your comfort zone? This is another thing I realized, like when you've been hurt, you tend to create like a refuge, a cave where you can feel safe again. And this is very important. It's part of the process. When you've been very hurt, you create all this kind of cocoon where you can heal. But once you did this process, it is very important, like the butterfly, right, to open again and drop those resistances that you created to protect yourself. Because there is a point where instead of helping, you are cutting you from the source of life, from abundance, from love. And so I really recommend you to re-listen, if you haven't yet, my meditation called Love Within, because it really helps to get to feel home, safe inside, and then be able to expand from there, to expand your comfort zone, to have these conversations or whatever it is for you, to keep amplifying your comfort zone instead of staying in the cave. And maybe you are at the point where you need the cave, so that's okay. but at a certain point you realize that you need to start taking some steps to open up again to life, and that means opening up to everything. So it takes this courage that is so rewarding once you are able to see that you are okay, it's not killing you, and you can do it step by step. So dare to feel the wounded kid and give him your love to feel safe again and help you on your new adventures to grow and expand together into the next level. Not just once, because sometimes we tend to do this childhood healing, just like putting like fixing something, and it's not about that, but about building a relationship. It's not something to fix. It's you. It's a part of you. So it's about building a relationship and having this connection that keeps growing and growing. So don't put limits to it, because it actually gets you in touch with how infinite you are. And this is how you receive your new manifestations, by gradually opening up again this comfort zone. And so you can allow them come into your reality. And so it's a moment to ask yourself, when the fantasies are crushed, what's still standing? What are the dreams that are still there, that are worth it, and that you will take with you into the next phase, into the next year after this transition? And sometimes you can feel that there's nothing left. But I bet that there are some things in your core that are even brighter now, that there are less distractions, that you can see more clearly, that are in your essence, that are not necessarily things, but maybe feelings or desires, or because that's when it's easier to hear the soul, when there is less outside noise. And really remember that you are not doing this only for yourself. Like, it's like when you go to a bathroom and it's kind of dirty, and you clean after yourself, so the next person that goes there finds it cleaner. So it's kind of that, like, yeah, maybe you go through some growing pains, but also you're making it easier for other people who go through these wounds after you. And also remember that always the most powerful cleaner is love. It dissolves it all, because at the end there's only love. So love with all your heart, and that's how your pain becomes your gift to the world.